So I came across a video on my page and it caught my eye because I play a lot of Final Fantasy 14. So I did hear that, well, I didn't hear, but I did hear a lot of articles saying FF14 is losing players or something like that. FF player base is lowering, decreasing. Then I came across this video. Can Final Fantasy 14 be saved again? So we're gonna watch this video and see what he's talking about. Because I did play Final Fantasy 14. I have like over 4,000 hours played on 14. Been playing since like 4.1, since like early Stormblood patches. So I want to see what this guy was talking about. I'm gonna put his video in the description as always, as I do every video that I react to. I also react on twitch.tv/michaelchiha. Twitch be in the description of the video, so let's get into this.
I've been getting a lot of DMs today regarding the state of Final Fantasy XIV, and a lot of current players are deeply hurt and frustrated by the news, and they've asked for my thoughts. And because I sympathize with that frustration, and because I too was once frustrated, and because so many of these positive responses from the likes of Lulu, Mugen, HQ Quest, and many others that I want to make.
I know who Lulu is.
Because
Okay.
while I've been a vocal critic of the direction of the game for some time, it's because I love this game that I wish that it could be all that it could be. And that,
as much as I love this game, I don't want this game to fail. I do not want 14 to fail. I love 14. Like, I just don't want to see a game that I play so many hours on, that I enjoy playing, to fail. That's the one thing I don't want to happen to 14.
as we know, upsets a very vocal minority portion of the quote-unquote community. Before we dive into how Square Enix can save Final Fantasy XIV, let's just get this out of the way because I think it's important that we define the term community and the context that I'm using it in this video. I know this is going to bring on a lot of dislikes, but I welcome you guys. Thanks for the engagement. But I'm not referring to the vast majority of amazing gamers who play this game, don't engage with the online nonsense and drama, and they also sometimes feel at odds with these type of videos because their experience has been nothing but wonderful. Those people are amazing, and for them, I honestly hope they continue to keep enjoying Final Fantasy XIV and any online game that they step into. By community in this context, I'm talking about what we all known as perhaps the cult or the Final Fantasy XIV Defense Force, those who make it their goal to write the most hateful and heinous things online, and sometimes I even wonder if they play this game at all. These type of players have many things in common. Number one, they hate women. Number two, they for sure hate Christians. And number three, they easily fall within the modern definition of woke, which is a word I hate to use.
I hate hearing that word.
Call them communists to separate it from its historical definition. Which is to say, deep down, they are deeply racist, deeply hateful people, so they really just have to fake their virtue online for whatever these internet points might be. The problem continues to be that the means of feedback between us, the players, or the former players, and the devs has long been hijacked by this group, thus skewing the game and having it continue to go in a direction that ultimately brings us here today. I don't want to give anyone false hope, as what I'm going to detail in this video is a monumentous task, on par with what Yoshi P and the team did from 1.0 to 2.0. But I think these ideas are worth talking about because its messages...
Now, I wasn't there in 1.0, but I did hear how bad 1.0 was, and the relaunch of 2.0.
An article,
I don't know, that's what he means by again in his video title.
Like this one from PC Gamer talking about costs being a limiting factor of the game. This seems to fly in the face of what Yoshi P has said previously when he said Square Enix were spare no expense for Final Fantasy XIV. And that's the hope that you and I share. That is in fact still true. We just haven't seen the fruits of it just yet. So maybe for the last time, I'd like to share with you guys what Square Enix really needs to do to help win back players like myself. I don't operate on the illusion of what I'm saying will happen or that it's even easy. As a dev myself, what I'm detailing is really freaking hard. And from what I see,
I'm not a dev either,
devs,
but I don't wish
don't
any bad things to
know or
happen.
don't believe their heart is in it this time. And what this could just be a fact that despite their success, Square Enix has continued to funnel money from the game to fund their other projects, which you already know haven't gone well for them at all.
16, for example. What's this? The hell is this?
All right, let's get.
Is that really the
to brass
project?
tacks.
Is that really the
first
project?
thing Square Enix needs to do to save Final Fantasy XIV is to stop siphoning money from the game. I think that is the obvious answer. It's not that they
That's
can't
obvious.
take money and profits and manage the money the way they want. I think they really need to hyper invest in Final Fantasy XIV, make Yoshi P's words ring true, and continue to expand on what this game could potentially be. Let me just put my bias out there though, because Final Fantasy XIV isn't an MMO like other MMOs that you think of when you hear the term MMO. In this case, Final Fantasy XIV uses the term O, the letter, to mean optional. The friction in the community always seems to boil down to those who want more of the MMO, more the classic style.
You can do all the content by
more
yourself.
the classic style, and less of a single player story driven experience. That's where the friction comes in. If you just want to play a game, for example,
The game is heavily
each
story
expansion
focused.
and just take 2 years off, I'm sure
You can do
your
the story by
experience is
yourself,
nothing
do
but
some of the
wonderful,
content
but
by yourself.
That's not what people want from a game that they pay a subscription to play. All right, number 2, the big one. Final Fantasy XIV needs to be redesigned from the ground up. It would honestly be better if they were actually planning a successor to Final Fantasy XIV and putting their time and effort into that while letting Final Fantasy XIV
Maybe rework
continue
the
its
combat.
current state of
Maybe.
managed decline. But we all know Yoshi P has said that this would be a literal nightmare. But the simple fact
Yeah, it sounds like a
remains,
nightmare.
Final Fantasy XIV is a Jenga tower. Each expansion built on top of the others, but operating independently. Now, they blend the lines so you don't notice it as much, but that is how the core programming works, which means fun features that made it into 7.0 won't be in previous expansion areas. And this does happen from time to time, but it is the exception rather than the rule, and it does take a huge amount of time and investment from the devs to make this happen. This is a double-edged sword too, because it runs the risk of cutting out content, which ties back into the reason why this video exists. Costs are limiting the game. So priorities and costs, all of this is a modern problem that every dev team is going to have. Anyway, the core design that has allowed them to develop with the cost and resource constraints that they do have. However, over time, you find that you don't have a cohesive experience in your playthrough. You also find that in order to keep the game going, you create massive investments in time. This vertical progression is throughout the whole game, from the story being the main focus, which drives the players from point A to point B, and then also into how gearing the system for gear works, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. Number 3, the open world. I'm a big open world fan when it comes to MMORPGs, and Final Fantasy XIV has a big, beautiful world, but people just idle in Limsa Lamenza. This makes the open world boring, and it has no ties into really crafting, gearing, gathering, and all the other systems, because there really isn't that much of a point. Sure, people do craft. Sure, people do.
I'm one of those people.
But the systems aren't, again, connected. Back to the Jenga tower problem. So there isn't anybody who's just gathering low-tier materials because they can and they're efficient and they're just relaxing, and endgame players are just buying those things up because they need them to upgrade their gear. Again, open world, gear, all of this is going, it's so tightly coupled that that's why I'm saying.
To be honest, everything I gather, any gathering materials that I gather in the zones, I put in the market board just to make some quick go. I don't really craft to the current content gear. I usually, if I'm gathering anything, I literally put the materials in the market board. I don't have a reason to keep them. I don't craft like that.
14 needs to be redesigned, or they need to be working on a successor to truly address this key issue. Let's talk about gear. For anybody who's been following my content for
gear, here we go.
know that I've never been happy with gear.
No one
The
is.
true endgame is a frustrating set of heartburn.
Glam is the true endgame.
I just die a little bit inside.
Glam is the true endgame.
Gear in its current state is boring. It has
gearing is so fun. Yeah, gearing is so boring.
Stat sick. Changing this gearing system would fundamentally break the game's key design principle that makes players feel, like when
rewarding
they come back in the game that they're not behind. That's been the design process. Yoshi has always wanted people to be able to take breaks, long breaks from the game, come back and not be at a disadvantage. But
or they can do what Destiny 2 does with the power level system. You know how we have item level? Well, instead of keeping it like item level, like current level, like 90, 91, 92, 93, they can make it like power level, like Destiny 2 is. If you play Destiny 2, you know what I'm talking about with the power level. Each gear piece has a power level, like 1500 power level, for example. Say 8.0. The maximum. I'm gonna make a random number up, but like, let's say the whole entire expansion, the maximum power level is like 1500 for that entire expansion, instead of getting level 91, 92, 93 gear, 94 gear, 95 gear through the whole main scenario, basically.
The flip side is that you don't actually have a purpose outside of the weekly slog and vertical progression. So it is a double-edged sword. I would love to see more investment. I've offered ideas along these lines in terms of experiences, like you think horizontal progression. Imagine
horizontal progression
where your relic weapon has an infect, a different kind of skill or feature or trait, but only in certain pieces of content like deep dungeons or whatever.
I wish relics felt rewarding in content. That's one thing I do wish. Like, once you get the relics, they don't feel a need for content most of the time. If they had a trait, it'd be kind of cool. I agree with this, actually.
Where the new endgame, open world raid thing is, that's what I'm talking about. So that there's a reason to go back and do your 2.0 ARR relic or 3.0 because it does give you some build advantages. This all ties into horizontal progression, and while I know that
my only ARR relic is my wet mage weapon.
For a big portion,
only have one.
I guess a small minority portion of the community, vertical progression really helps the casual and mid-core player be able to step into different avenues and find different ways that they can create their build. And this then all jumps into number 6, job identity. For 8.0, I say no new jobs. Just redesign the job system.
Rework Dark Knight.
Sub-jobs and make player builds actually feel fun.
Sub-jobs, yes.
Like they do in PvP. That is, I think, one of the things that really woke me up and really kind of, really made me realize how frustrated I was with the PvE job design because they're so homogenous. Like everything just always continues to, get closer together. As opposed to PvP, the jobs actually felt like
PvP suck. I don't like PvP.
It was interesting.
I've never been a PvP person in MMOs, but I think Fortune has the worst PvP experience ever. Honestly, I don't have a reason to do PvP. I think this was the. I think Fortune might have been the first MMO that I actually invested PvP for a little bit. But PvP is not fun, at least for me. I'm not that. Maybe it's not my cup of tea, but I don't mess with PvP in FF14. I'm not the kind of guy to do it anymore. I tried it for a little bit, just to see how it is. It's okay, not the best. I wish you can like group up with your friends and do PvP together, but that is not a thing apparently.
There's pros and cons, and I think they can do that for the PvE side of things. And I honestly hope that they do. And again, bringing in the sub-job system, a classic Final Fantasy system, really kind of would help flesh that out, giving you some interesting flexibility.
I would like that. Sub-jobs, yes. I would like to see that, actually. If that's not an 8.0, or at least an idea for the devs, I swear to God. Yeah, sub jobs. I think sub jobs should be a thing in this in FF14 and if Final Fantasy Classic like this, yes, that should be a thing for FF14 sub jobs.
And choice in how you decide to approach the content. Number 7, level sync. Let us keep our skills. This isn't a difficulty thing.
Bro, I hate level syncing. Oh my god.
The game is easy as it can be without really any help from the devs. Let us have our skills and our abilities so that even in low level,
I hate level syncing so much. I really do.
level content, we still feel our level, capped identity. That's the other problem, is that the mass majority of content, especially at expansion time, is lower tier content. And so even if you hit level cap and you're like, oh, I love how this job plays at level 100, well, you go into content and 90% of the time you don't have any access to that. I'd love to
90% of the time I do my roulettes, it's literally everything below 80. The majority of the the majority of the daily roulettes I do every day, it's usually Shadowbringers or below. It's usually Shadowbringers or below roulettes, I swear to God. Like, can we please keep our current skills, like our level 100 skills, and bring them into like older content that we're not locked out of the skills that we like?
see them redesign the level sync system. I think it's well beyond time. I think any of the naysayers out there are at least moving in the direction of this idea, because it ends up just making things fun. I think that should be the key principle, not necessarily difficulty, because everybody knows the dungeons are not difficult.
They're not that
And
hard.
if they are, they're only like for your first run.
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially, they
First time, it's gonna get hard, obviously.
Limited jobs, honestly, tying this in, number 8, based off of job identity, make them just real jobs. I love how they've done Blue Mage with that.
Why is it called limited jobs again? I'm trying to figure that out.
Flexibility of skills, right? We saw that and we've seen it happen before. Final Fantasy XI, I think, knocked it out of the park. Bring that into this game. But that would...
I didn't even play FF11, but I don't know what limited jobs they had.
Also, again, tie back into number 6, the job identity. Like, give us some player flexibility and choice and options. And their matchmaking system, which is one of the big reasons why they keep from it, could be expanded so that if you, for some reason, don't have your skills equipped as a blue mage, it wouldn't let you queue up. We don't have to worry about punishing people. It could literally be, hey, we know, like, you want to queue up, you need to do this. Like, these things are possible. This is all doable.
Yeah, it is. It is doable.
Isn't impossible. And what's proven it to me is that New World's done something very similar. You have a ton
yes, they have
choice, a ton of build variety, a lot of options that you can pick from, and yet they still have brought in matchmaking, which is to say these problems can be solved. Number 9, this is kind of a final note. Remake, remaster Final Fantasy XI. Bring these games together. In fact, if it's easier to make a new Final Fantasy MMO, just bring all 3 games into the Square Enix.
I mean, technically the new Alliance trade for dawntrail is, I'm not saying it is, but it's technically it is FF11 remake. But yeah, they could bring in FF11 to this game. They could do that if they really wanted to. As someone who hasn't played FF11, I would try that, actually.
Enix subscription, allowing players to experience these games and jump from one to the next, all for one simple price. I think that would help solve some of the migration issue if, for example, they do decide to launch a new MMO, most likely not until after 2030, just put
2030
on it.
Oh god.
If they do decide to go in that direction, yeah, you could end up having the one sub to kind of rule them all. And so you're sub to Final Fantasy XIV. Turns out you're also sub to this new game. And when there's a content drought, that's going to be what it is. Ultimately, I think the solution for the MMORPG, especially as we go from 25 to 2025 and forward, is the Sand Park. Final Fantasy XIV is a theme park. Final Fantasy XI is a sandbox. I think they have to look at bridging the gap between these two, and we're seeing other MMOs do just that and bring out the sand park. You have
Get rid of level syncing and everyone will be happy. And make the game system actually good, basically.
elements of both that keep and it kind of speak to a wide variety of different gamers. But let's be honest. I've said one of the big reasons why I stepped away from Final Fantasy XIV, especially as a mainline content creator around the game, I have 6 kids. Life doesn't necessarily afford me lots of time. And I like gaming as a fun, enjoying hobby. I don't want to be one of these negative Nancy content creators that only get views because of whatever online drama or whatever the game is failing is all about. I made these points very clear over my history of content creation. And while some people might not understand my approach, that's perfectly fine. That's all this is. I put out something, you guys interpret it, we discuss and go back and forth. Now, I've long maintained that I continue to love and I want the best for Final Fantasy XIV. I want the best for all the players who have enjoyed it at some point in the past and who might enjoy it at some point in the future. The design decisions have led us to this day. This isn't some kind of prophecy. I'm not somebody who can just see the future and tell you how it's all going to unfold.
I wish.
Who looks at the facts and the direction.
Fortune teller over here.
And this is why I've been so vocal and so like I've really felt a calling to be this vocal about this. And that's why I'm really excited to make this video. And I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out for it. But I want this game to be everything that it can be. And honestly, it just feels like they're just kind of checking a box right now. Yoshi P coming out in the latest live letter apologizing, which is kind of like terminology that I don't think we've really heard him.
They saw the feedback.
Few issues. We have heard him apologize, but talking about trying to regain the trust of the community, that in and of itself sounds very similar to what happened in 1.0. And
1.0, I wasn't there, so I don't know what happened.
What
happened to 1.0?
Investing in this game. They are working on doing these things. We know that they're hard, but time is going to be the ultimate judge in all of this. Guys, as I wind down the video, I always like to end my videos with what I call the message of hope. I know somebody out there right now listening
message of hope,
hurting themselves, and I want to talk to you directly. You are worthy of love. Any thought in your mind that says that you're worthless or that the world would be better off without you, those are lies. And I want you to say, whenever those thoughts pop in your head, stop lying to me. That's not true. Now, what's important, though, is I would encourage you, especially as this June, it's Men's Mental Health Month, I want you to focus in on that aspect. Focus in on taking care of yourself. Focus in on becoming the person that you need to be. It's going to be a little bit of a journey, but I'm going to tell you, you're not alone. You and I are both strugglers in this regard. In fact, I would think that anybody who's listening to this part of the video themselves knows by experience what I'm talking about, either through their own personal interactions or from friends and family around them. You're not alone. Your suffering, it doesn't make you a failure. You're not a failure by any means. What I want you to do is shift your mind and your focus. I want you to stop believing the lies that your brain's telling you. This could be many different reasons. I've talked about food in the past. It could be therapy is a really good tool. Cognitive behavior therapy, highly recommended. Doing these things, seeking out these answers doesn't make you weak.
Yeah, I think that's the rest of the video. I think that's the rest of it. But yeah, good video. I think he is right on a lot of things. Especially the game system. Yes. Just redesign the game system to like power level.